Good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
This.
Hello.
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 Yeah, Mr. Mukherjee, can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you very much.
Hello. I think some noise is coming from your end. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Hello? Mr. Bora, you are muted. You are muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's clear now. Clear. I think we need to be very much clear about our, the media. There's some noise coming in.
Yeah, yeah. Debu, can you hear us?
Hello. Hello. बेटा आवाज कुछ नहीं आ सकता वेब
Buida, can you hear me?
हेलो
Can you hear me?
इको है
Debu, I can hear you.
Yeah, but your voice is echoing. Just
Is it okay?
right now, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll get the microphone closer to my mouth,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that will be better.
That's why. Yeah. Closer to mouth, it will be the better.
Right, right. I'll do that.
अच्छा is my voice clear?
Yes, it is clear, Mr. Bora.
No, because see, I also getting some echo actually.
Echo. It is echoing. Echo also is there from your end.
Echo, is it from my end?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, is it okay?
Yeah. Right now, it is okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's no sound as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know why. ठीक है. Let the others join.
Yeah.
Shoma, good to see you. Good morning, Shoma. Debu, anybody else has joined or joining?
Actually, there are 5 panelists already joined and 9 attendees.
Sorry?
5 panelists and 9 attendees still now joined.
But 5 panelists I cannot see.
But you just check and the view control in the grid.
No, I can't see whether the other panelists have joined or not.
No,
I can
but
only see.
you can see because as a host I can see that one.
Right. So allow them entry, the other panelists.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Monim. You are muted. You are muted.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good morning. Just trying to see how I can adjust.
Right. I'll
Okay.
just take a call. Mr. Ravi Suchanti is calling me.
Oh, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Suchanti. You received the panelist link, right? That's right. That's the one. No. You have to just enter your email address and everything. Your your official email, and then you can log in. They'll allow. No. I think you have to skip that. You just need to join. You have to click on that link and the panelist link. Yeah, you just join. Yeah, you have to type in your email ID, your official one, the one that's been shared with us. You have to give in your name and official email ID. Sorry? No, you have to join. Yeah. I think there is some place where you can skip that also. Yeah. No problem. No problem. No, because others have joined in through that only. Right. No issues. No issues. No issues. Others are still joining. Right. Back to Webex. No. Right. Okay. Yeah, you're there. You're there. I can see you. You are there. Right. No. You just need to talk. Unmute yourself and talk. No. This is basically the theme of the today's session. That is why we are just focusing that. You just need to unmute yourself and you can talk. On the if you're doing it from the No, you have not. It's on the left-hand corner, bottom corner. In case you are doing it from your laptop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Okay. All
Right.
done?
Perfect. All done.
Right.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Little
All have joined in
technology.
as yet. Hi, Chandan. How are you?
Ravi, a little technology challenged, I see.
Very technology challenge. At least I'm doing a little better than what I used to do pre-COVID. Yeah, pre-COVID, so it was I had bodies to deal with this. Yeah, now I've got nobody but myself.
Good morning, Nishanji.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning.
So far, there's just three of us. So Azam is also there.
Azam is also there. Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, Azam is there. Okay, so we've got wonderful. Uh-huh. Yes, come in a moment.
I've got two views of Mr. Bora. Mr. Bora, you've got two cameras, is it?
I think Mr. Bora has actually logged in twice. So that is why it is showing
Okay.
2 times.
Well,
Chandan's logged in twice, is it?
I guess so.
Okay. No harm done as long as he's there. He's the moderator, so the guy Chandan needs to be all there in every form. Mukherjee, this webinar's generated a fair amount of interest. I've got about 8-10 calls since last evening.
Right.
You know, so I'm sure there'll be lots of people who will log into it.
Yeah, and I had also shared the attendee link with all of you in case people from your office could also want to join.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think some of my colleagues may have joined.
Right,
So
right.
how many people, how many registrations have you got, Mr. Mukherjee?
We have got a fair amount of registrations. I think, as I said, that we should expect around 70, 80 people, if not more, to actually log in.
Okay.
Because there are always last moment dropouts and things like that.
True, true. Yeah, I find on an average almost 40-50% dropout.
Good morning,
Yeah.
Mr. Sushanti.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
This is Rudra. How are you? How are you, Bodhi?
Very well. How are you, Rudra?
Good morning.
Such a pleasure. Such a
Good
pleasure
morning,
to
sir.
have you with us.
Yes, good to see you.
hi, Rudro. How are you? Good morning. Azam here.
Hello, Mr. Monem. How are you?
I'm well, well. You can't see me, but I will display myself shortly.
I like that.
As soon as my makeup man should be out of this. So.
Yes. Hairstylist is doing his work now.
Azam, if you need makeup, then I need surgery.
Arey, you are seeing your surgical strike on Nepal.
That is called.
Yeah?
It's a good one.
Morning.
Sanjay, good morning. How are you?
Morning. I'm good. All well. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Atul. I can recognize you from the voice.
The baritone
Now I
voice.
see your video as well.
Uh, should we start because we are just at 12 o'clock? So I don't know. Maybe the deputy chairman and chairman would also join. But should we start or should we wait 5 minutes for them?
Wait for 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe a good idea to wait for 5 minutes. Yeah.
তুমি জয়েন করে দেন হ্যাঁ
Mr. Mukherjee, how many people do you
Yeah.
have in this event today?
Today, in fact, in the total event, we have more than 200 registrations. So, yeah. I actually spoke to the chairman also a while back. He said he'll join in around 11:50. I don't know. Maybe it's taking a little bit of time for him also. Hello. Sir, we are waiting for you to start the meeting. Sorry? Oh, okay. Great. No, I think you have joined as an attendee হতে পারে কারণ আমি কালকেও তো সৌম্যকে বললাম যে help you join as a panelist. একটু যদি আপনি লগ আউট করে if you can join in again as a Hello. Hello. Okay. As a panelist.
Hi, Atul.
Hi.
Good morning, Atul.
There are two Atuls.
Oh, yes, Mr. Astana. I was talking to my colleague, Mr. Rastogi.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I was wondering you were calling Atul Astana, sir.
No. I'm not familiar enough with Mr. Astana to call him by his first name.
No, you are most welcome to that.
Okay. So, Mr. Mukherjee,
Yeah.
the Mr. Rai, Tibor, Deputy Chairman, he's joining?
Yeah, I just spoke to him. Probably by mistake, he must have joined as a attendee. So he's trying to rejoin as a panelist.
Okay.
I just spoke to him.
And what about Mr. Besburua?
I just spoke to him a while back. He said he would join around 11:50. But if I can just give him a call again.
Sure. In
I'll
any
do
case,
that.
we'll start. We should start in a minute. We don't want to delay.
Right.
So while you're at it, I might just start in a minute.
Sure.
Is that okay according to everybody else? I think we should not push it back by.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
I think let's start. I can connect chairman and deputy chairman in the meantime.
Okay.
So I think good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Roadmap for Revival in the Tea Sector. And may I request our immediate past president, Mr. Rudra Chatterjee, to deliver the welcome remarks and also set the tone for today's webinar. Over to you, Mr. Chatterjee.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Do you want to remove the? You have. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all of you who I can see, the doyens of the tea industry on this WebEx, and apparently more than 200 who are listening in. It's my great pleasure, obviously on behalf of Indian Chamber, a chamber that I'm very close to and is given me much, but most importantly on behalf of the tea industry, the first industry and that I've ever known, and the industry that is closest to all our hearts. It is a very, very special set of people who make this industry. Many of those special people are here today, and it's a great pleasure to see Mr. Astana from Goodrake, Mr. Azam Monem from McLeod, Mr. Ravi Suchanti from J. Thomas, Mr. Sanjay Bansal, and many other very important players of the industry. We will be joined by the chairman and deputy chairman of Tea Board. So this should be a very productive discussion. It's difficult to, as people in the tea industry, we are not shy of talking. It's difficult to keep these webinars within their time. So I'll try to not take too long, and then hopefully we will stick to our time. Tea is, the subject is the challenges of the tea industry. So that sets the tone. There used to be, when my father started in the tea industry, they used to say tea and tennis. That is how tea industry used to be associated, that you work till 4:30 and then there would be a game of lawn tennis. And then after a few years, it became tea and tenacity. Only those who could, go on, it's like climbing a mountain. And of late, they say tea and tears. People who are, you have to have a very high EQ to last out in this industry. Because most days are very desperate. Now, why is tea so challenged? That is the question that we'll have to get at. And that is something that, one good news, I would say, or at least the inkling of a good news, is that there's been a lot of discussion about the tea industry at the group of minister levels and at the highest levels of the country. Even yesterday, the group of ministers asked for a small note that what are the issues of the tea industry. So this is something that's happening, and I think over the few days, deliberations like this will allow ICC and FICCI, which is the federation also which ICC is a part of, to send information to the government regularly on the tea industry. But the issue is the nature of solution cannot only be subsidy. It has to be something that gets fixed, and that is something that the government is very keen to see. So it is very important for us to understand what are the challenges and how do we overcome the challenges. One of the issues, most of us here are producers. It is true that most of us have been focused on volume. I'm not talking about Darjeeling so much, but across the board, volume has been a focus. Mr. Ravi Suchanti will, rattle off the numbers when he speaks in a little while later. So I don't need to say those, but volume has been the focus, and that has been a challenge. There are many people who can make cheaper teas than India. Very few people can make better teas than India if we are really serious about it. But that hasn't been our focus, and that has to be something that we bring in. The second is producers obviously are doing well within the Indian market, and as the volumes are increasing, they are probably getting a good price in the Indian market. But of the top 10 brands of tea, other than Tetley, which is now owned by an Indian company. None of those are Indian. And these are, this should be an industry. And this industry of branded tea is a $52 billion industry. The exports out of India is 1% of that, somewhere around 600 million or something, which, Mr. Suchanti will tell us. But why aren't we going after the $52 billion prize? And what needs to be done? And that is not just a producer and a consumer story, that is an industry story, which, this forum can discuss. What are the challenges because of which we are unable to do it? One thing I believe, as a producer, I feel that, packaging in a scalable manner is not something one company can do. It has to be something that the industry comes together and does. We should have an opportunity that if, one of us have, and many of us might say, maybe Mr. Asthana might say, no, Goodrich already has its packaging. So why do we have to get into that? But, look at the packaging that is developing around the world. Look at the flavors that are developing. Look at the shelves around the world. Ultimately, we think our job of tea industry ends with Mr. Suchanti, receiving our tea, but it doesn't. It ends with a consumer drinking our tea. And so we have to constantly look, that human being who, fortunately, through good times and bad, through, pandemics and everything, have continued to drink the tea. So that's at the end of the industry, there is a rainbow. We just have to make sure that we are serving that opportunity. So having a way to make the tea available so that a consumer can buy. The channels, marketing channels, all of these are rapidly changing. But we are not probably as consumer focused as a producer, as a consumer. I know that, things have changed dramatically in the industry, and we probably need to understand how do we change with it and be very specific to the government. For example, in terms of, we're talking about, making packaging available for even MSME companies. If they want 1,000 bags in the name of, your tea estate, in North Bengal, red packaging tea bags, it should say 50 rupees per bag or 20 rupees per bag, but I can supply a few hundred and you can sell it on Amazon if you want to. We'll have to bring the modern world to the tea industry. And, that is, I think, one area where we are lacking. The second issue is India is a very, very powerful member in the WTO. We are told what chemicals can be used based on some buying countries. We need to sit with those buying countries and have one list of chemicals so that every kg of tea that any one of us produces is both domestically and globally compliant. And then it becomes one market. Today, I know many of the producers, quite closely, and we, often share drinks at CCFC, so there's no secrets. We make teas for the domestic market and we make teas for the export market. There are teas with RA certification and MRL certification, and there are gardens which don't have it. Botleaf, by nature, doesn't have it. We have to make one tea. I'm not saying it has to be MRL. It has to be one chemical. Maybe we can change the standards. India is a powerful enough country that the commerce minister should be able to sit around the table and say, listen, these are the chemicals. It's essentially chemical suppliers from Germany cannot decide which chemicals we use. The tea industry has to decide which chemicals we use. And I think that also opens up the market, across the board, between, the producer and, making the supply, totally, fungible. I think Botleaf is a question. I'm been invited to speak at the Tripura discussion, which is at 2:00. It's a much smaller panel, not with so many people, but I'm going to talk about the African model of Botleaf, where we are able to buy, it's not probably sensible, very high fine leaf count Botleaf and pay a share of revenue. Is there a model where the Botleaf guys, we saw that after the closure, many of us as producers saw after the closure, when the first leaf came after the skiffing, the Botleaf quality was excellent, right? And Mr. Suchanti will tell us how they did, but that is not sustainable. because it will again go down. So if we make sure that the bottling, maybe hopefully these guys will get a taste of getting a good amount of money for the leaf that they supply and make good tea. We have to go after quality. We have to make sure that we reach the market directly, and we have to make sure that the rules are on a level playing field when it comes to chemical or other things, not anti-Indian tea industry. That, I think, is the focus. But I am very keen to hear much more experienced and knowledgeable people coming after me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and welcome to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. I think we also warmly welcome the chairman of Tea Board, who has just joined with us, Mr. Prabhat Besbarua. Good morning to you, sir. I think you are muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Warm welcome to you to this tea webinar.
Thank you.
Indeed happy you had a little bit of a problem in connecting.
Yeah, I
But
couldn't.
thank you. You could join. And may I know? Thank you.
Sure. Carry on. Move on.
Who are already there with us. Over to you, Mr. Bora. Unmute yourself.
Hear a thing.
Can't hear now.
I can't hear, please.
I cannot hear.
Chandan, whatever you've said up to now, I have not heard.
He has
I think-
to unmute. He's on mute. Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Chandan Bora is on mute. He has to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Unmute yourself.
You are again on mute, Mr. Bora. You have to unmute your microphone.
Sir, please unmute, sir.
Then can you hear? Unmute yourself.
You hear me?
Can you hear me out?
Now you are unmuted. Yeah.
Chandan, now we can hear you.
Acha, yeah, good afternoon. I mean, sorry, I think there was a little bit of technical issue. Yeah. So very warm welcome to everyone, the viewers as well as all the guests and the panelists who have participated and taken out the time to participate in this webinar.
All, Mr. Bora, all those who are not speaking should mute their microphone because there is a lot of disturbance.
There is a lot of disturbance. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, is it clear? Yeah, hello. Am I clear? Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you, Mr. Bansal.
Yeah, why don't everybody else mute their line?
Yeah, I think I am on unmute only.
Everybody else should mute.
Yeah, correct. Is it clear? Is the voice clear now? Okay, thanks. From the tea fraternity, I would like to specially thank Indian Chamber of Commerce as well as in association with Tea Board of India for having organized this webinar. So we have got the distinguished panelists who has more than 4 decades of experience in the industry. The key points which are going to be discussed, presented by the speakers, That has already been, circulated, but I will just touch upon few areas the promotion of Indian tea post lockdown due to COVID situation, crisis management, quality tea production and boosting demand, emergence of new business model in tea industry, future scenario of tea consumer behavior and consumer connect, call for collaborative action, tea industry development perspective. So the panelists which we have in our midst today is Mr. Ajam Monim, who is well known. He is whole-time director of Macro Russell. Mr. Ravi Susanti, who is heading J. Thomas and Company. Mr. Atul Asthana from Goodread Group, who is also heading, and Mr. Sanjay Bansal from Ambudia Group, and Mr. K.K. Tiwari, Mr. Adit Lochan. So I would just like to leave the house open. So may I request the panelists to start and speak on the subject. Over to the panelists, please. So I will come in between, and the time we have just kept it. Actually, it was an 1 hour from 12:15 to 1:15. So I think we are just 5 minutes short. We are not in time. So 5 minutes, we can easily make it up. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions answer also in between. So we'll keep it separately. So that would be about 1:15 to 1:30, about 15 minutes short. So that we'll see how the participating. I'll try to make the entire the discussion very engaging and interesting. Yeah, please.
Chandan, do you want me to start? Azam Monem here.
Yeah, please.
So, good morning to everyone, listeners, panelists, and everyone. I think we heard Mr. Rudro Chatterjee give some outline in his keynote address that we have a lot of challenges. Yes, there is, and marketing is certainly one of the challenge. I think I'll be speaking on promotion of Indian tea post-lockdown in the COVID situation. So in order to, understand where we are, I'll quickly run through the industry, the industry structure. I want to just leave you with thoughts in the present scenario, the consumer reaction, and of course the future. So very shortly, I will cover these points. The industry structure, gentlemen, we all know is cyclical in nature. It shows up with some sort of a recovery every 10 years in the last 3-4 decades that we've seen. And you get a temporary reprieve, and then costs catch up with you, and then you're back to a scenario where you're trying to play catch up. So, we are all aware that in the last 5 years or so, costs have doubled and prices have just remained flat and stagnant. So this very structure is based on a very labor-intensive culture which has been inherited, and where we go through these revisions every 3 years. Obviously, 65-70% is covered under labor and welfare. So we have a situation where we don't have surpluses to invest in marketing. So the tea producer is always challenged with surpluses for investment and marketing in particular, which has been our weakness. If I just were to therefore look at this, this is a structure which we have. We've got a cyclical business. We have a structure heavily laid out on this. And what is the current scenario? As our chief speaker, Mr. Rudro Chatterjee, very clearly mentioned that in order to overcome the costs, we continue to pursue quantity and not quality. So our main challenge has always been that you continue to overcome your costs by increasing your quantity. And this has been the bane of the industry. Unfortunately, we are in a scenario where there is oversupply and it is not sustainable. So obviously we need all stakeholder participation, including government, tea board, to address this very lacuna in the structure. How do we address this is something which we'll open for debate. What is the present scenario? The present scenario exactly tells us that we were in oversupply. Because of the COVID situation, the tea industry has been under lockdown and it has lost its first flush crop. The first flush crop comes to more than 10% of its annual production. And that in itself, a 10% loss of crop has given a rise in prices. Now, one is really concerned that, look, these price rise also is not going to mitigate your high cost of production. How sustainable is this price rise going forward? In the immediate term, we can have this for debate, but we believe that this shortfall may last you 12, 18 months, this price rise. But then what? Again, cost will catch up and we'll be running to catch our tail yet again. So the very structure needs a little bit of a relook, and we've got experts here to discuss that. Then I move on to a little bit on what is the present consumer pattern and where are the opportunities which we can take advantage of. So very clearly, we are seeing a revival of the tea market at the consumer level. I think where there were headwinds, we now have tailwinds. But it is up to us to capitalize. We are seeing a boost in staple purchases in groceries. We are seeing, therefore, an impact on tea purchases also in the consumer level, although supply chains have not been fully restored. But yet we find that, yes, there is going to be a definite shift in mindset for consumption of healthy beverages. Tea is a natural product, it's coming into that. What we've seen globally, and particularly I see in US and UK, is that consumers are going less out for shopping, and therefore their SKUs are converting to much larger packs. And therefore, you know, in India, we used to have the 250-gram pack, which used to last almost 2 weeks, as the bread and butter of the pack. So we are seeing that consumer packs are also becoming larger. It's a saving to packers, and it is a one-time or a less frequent purchasing. So those sort of scenarios are emerging. What we are also seeing is that beverages and tea in particular, which is a natural product, but when it's fortified with vitamin C, vitamin D, with minerals such as zinc and magnesium, these are available in the market. They are getting a big boost, and this is what the consumers are looking at. So are we gearing up? In the Indian context, I would say tulsi, ginger, and turmeric-based tea products are going to find a new sort of avatar. So we are seeing this scenario develop. We would obviously like our packer friends and our producer innovative friends to keep pace with this change and bring about. So I think another thing which we are seeing is consumers are sticking to known brands, and so brand loyalty is very, very important. That bit is coming through very clearly. And what we are also seeing is that the consumer wants to play safe and not experiment. In the Indian context, of course, we need to analyze whether the tea spending is going to be discretionary or staple. At certain top ends, maybe the discretionary spending is going to have a relook and repositioning. At certain staple levels, I think it will only be boosted. From the future of the tea planter, how would I address a tea planter and what would my advice be? So I would really tell my tea planter friends that, look, start focusing on quality, because your tea is going to come in to severe stringent analysis here, and the intrinsic tea as well as the plant protection substances that you are using are all going to be tested now. So we all know that the best tea, the safest tea is made from 2 leaves and a bud. So that is what we need to focus on. Go back to your old issues on how we can focus on quality. So that is something which I thought I should bring up. Also, I think, how do we see this in the future? Future, you know, even in the Indian consumer is going to become more aware of climate impact. And I think COVID has brought that to the fore, that how do we protect Mother Earth? How do we take care of the climate around us? And at some stage, you will need to be aware of the carbon footprint that these products generate. I think tea is in a very good space in terms of carbon sequestration. So we definitely have a heads up there. And this is something which we must become more aware of. Since my tea board friends are there, both chairman and deputy chairman, I would really just touch upon the tea board's role. I think ideally the tea board's role should come into the forefront of promotion, of generic promotion. And I mean promotion not at the below line, but above line promotion. So we would expect, the tea industry to join hands, create a corpus, get into the tea board. Tea board has to have very high professionals in marketing and look at the TV and media, because people are staying at home. There's more family time. They're drinking tea. They're watching TV. What better can you ask for? So this has given us a huge opportunity for promotion in the right way. It's an immunity booster. It's got all the natural ingredients. We have a great story. And this is what I would leave for the panelists to further debate. Thank you. Thank you, Chandan.
Yeah, thanks. So I think we will take questions. I think after the all the key points. For the
Chandan, we lost you. Chandan, lost you for a minute. I didn't hear you. Please.
Chandan, you're echoing too much. You have to.
Chandan, you are echoing. Maybe you've got two devices on. You should shut one device.
Okay. Chandan, can I request you to step in? Am I the next speaker?
Chandan, you're on mute now.
No, I'm on mute.
Yeah, I guess Mr.
Go ahead, Ravi Shanti. If you feel you're the next speaker, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Am I the next speaker? Then I'm going ahead, please.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. Rudro, in particular, who's given the opening note, Chandan, who's the moderator. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this webinar. Azam and Rudro have touched upon a fairly macro level on various points to do with the industry. What I'm going to do is actually focus on the pure marketing aspect of it. We have basic two lines of marketing. That's the international and the domestic. I'll focus primarily on the domestic end of it, and I'll give you some of the views that I think. Basically, what is happening is the tea industry, we produce about 1,400 million kilos of tea. We consume domestically 150 million kilos. That's roughly 82% of our entire domestic production. If one was to break this up into the monthly, it's roughly 95 million kilos of tea consumed by the Indian consumer on a month-to-month basis. Okay, which translates roughly into a per capita consumption of well, figures tell us 770 million kilos, but if I were to calculate that 150 was retained, it actually indicates that our domestic consumption is in the tune of 827 grams per consumer. Okay, so what do we do actually? My first focus would always be on how do we promote tea? How do we ensure that our per capita consumption goes up? Because in the long run, the more people drink tea, the better it is for the industry on a long-term basis. So the first thing that we need to do is make tea into an interesting product. And I use and I put emphasis on the word interest, because in my opinion, interest creates demand. What we need to do is have a corpus of consumers who are drinking tea more by design rather than default. So the first thing I would do as a marketing person is basically target the youth. Now, if you go into the demographics of India, it will tell you that roughly 65% of our population is below 35 years. And if you were to see our population chart, it says that over 27% of our population is below 14 years. Now, my interest would be to target the younger generation, the sub 14 category, because they are the future tea drinkers, in my opinion. So the first thing I would do is, like Azam mentioned, talked about generic promotion from the tea board at the above the line process. I would go with schools and colleges, okay, because that is where your latent customer base lies. Those are the guys you want to change into regular tea drinking. So what we need to do is change their perception that tea is actually good for them. It's a health product, it's good for them. What I'm finding is that in most cases, the average youngster is graduating from milk to aerated products rather than from milk to tea. Okay, what is happening is they're finding it more trendy to drink the aerated product. They're finding it more trendy to drink coffee. So what I would want is to move them from coffee or milk directly into tea. For that, you need to make it attractive. You need to make it trendy. You need to make it young for them. And under the current situation where COVID has become a big issue, health and wellness plays a great role. The International Tea Day, in my opinion, couldn't have come at a better time. It's indicated tea as a beverage that matters. And what we need to do is just tell our younger generation and the consumer that tea is a product. It's a good for you beverage. It's good for you. It's good for your family. It's good for your friends. It's good for your colleagues. Maybe we need to just remind them, because one of the reasons I'm mentioning this is, all the old TV programs are coming back, and I've been watching the Ramayana Mahabharata, and Sanjeevani is actually supposed to be a tea product, a tea plant. So we need to be talking about these kind of things. Azam also mentioned that tea is a natural product. It's absolutely natural. It's air, it's sun, it's wind. It has all the natural ingredients that go up with it. So what do we need to do in the new normal? We need to make these as the selling points. Health and safety, extremely important. We need to be telling them that in the current situation, a warm beverage is not only a more welcome beverage, but it's also beneficial for them. Azam mentioned very significantly about immunity boosting. It's something which I had on my mind. Let's add vitamins to it. Okay, he's also already mentioned about tulsi, ginger, lemon, turmeric. All these are actual ingredients which we already have on our tea packs. Why don't we escalate the SKUs into adding vitamins and essentials? It will help the product even further. These are basically what we need to do as our selling points to make tea into a more sustainable product. When I'm talking about sustainable product, again, something mentioned by the previous speaker is we need to be telling them about the positive carbon footprint. Okay, we need to be telling them that it's a product not only good for you, it's a product good for communities involved in producing this product. We need to be telling them about women friendly, because I think what is happening is all of us are sitting at home. Lots of us are tied up. The woman plays certainly a more significant and a bigger role in our lives. So when we showcase our product as being women friendly, that 50% of the tea actually is produced by women, it adds up to our sales pitch. And another thing that I would also recommend is, it was done in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Why don't we start asking the government, can be done through the tea board level, requesting the government to make tea part of the PDS supply, like we have rice and grains and pulses and the rest of it. Why can't we do it for tea? It was done very successfully in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So what we need to do is, these are some of the points that we can work on. The other thing I think we need to do is become a little more visible in the new media. T-Board is doing a great job by way of the Facebook, it has the Snapchats, it has all of it. But what we need actually as an industry is greater visibility with the common consumer. And that, I think, is a role, again, which is what Azam mentioned very clearly, above the line promotion. It's something that the T-Board can help us with. That's at the base level. Now, what do we need to do at a consumer level? The FMCG companies will do their own bit. I think the e-commerce and digital marketing is a platform that is slowly gaining pace. I must tell you, I'm technically technology challenged, but post-COVID, I'm a lot better than what I was. And I find this across most other people. So e-commerce and digital marketing is something which will, in due course, maybe not today, maybe in the next decade, it's going to overtake the traditional brick and mortar format of selling. It's going to be something that will come through. The other thing we need to work on is with our consumers is convenience and quick serve. Okay. The reason I make a point on on convenience and quick serve is people have been talking about that 30% of the Indian consumption is an out of home consumption. Okay, most of this out of home consumption happens in roadside stalls. Okay, which are not the most healthy, as we all know. So if we can make the quick serve format convenient and safe, you will have a winning formula that is running through. The second thing that we need to do is add more varieties of tea. Okay, we are far too focused on just a pure simple black tea, and the new format that we are, or the new avatar that we are talking about is the add-on condiments that we have. We need to have much more varieties of tea, maybe smaller SKUs for the consumer to experiment on it, and make, as Rudro mentioned, make the packaging much more attractive. Because what happens is an attractive packaging, it hits you on the shelf space. Like Azam said, people are going for bigger packs, but what they're doing is they're only making one foray into the market rather than multiple foray. So if you can have an attractive pack, they will definitely experiment with. We need to ensure that apart from being a staple spend, it also becomes a discretionary spend with most of these people. So you have a win-win situation where tea is drunk as a staple product, and then the add-on packaging and the add-on varieties of tea become what we call as the impulse or the discretionary spend. Okay, last but not the least is again something mentioned by Rudro, and I take note of it. We need to make sure that tea is a tasty product. We are not producing the best teas all the time. There are enough and more gardens who produce wonderful teas, but a very large percentage of the Indian tea is not what I would call as a tasty product. If we have quality, if the product is tasty, you will make sure that the consumer keeps coming back for more. And when you have a product which is tasty, you can increase your MRPs and the consumer will happily pay that. Okay, so these are some of the things that we would work. Last but not the least is what I think we need to be adding on is create a world-class infrastructure research facility. We keep talking about research chairs in Harvard and Cambridge and so many other institutions. Why can't the T board help the industry through a research chair? The TRA already has very fancy research facilities. Maybe we can add on to that and make tea into a truly well-researched beverage in India, where we have scholars coming from all parts of the world. So these gentlemen are roughly some of the thoughts I have on what I called as modern marketing and the traditional marketing broken into different segments, which will aid and abet our per capita consumption and therefore help the industry. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Chandan, we've lost you again. Chandan, we've lost your voice.
I think, thank you, Mr. Suchanti. This is B. Mukherjee. So, in case we have lost Mr. Bora, so can we move on to our next speaker, which is Mr.
Hello.
Atul Asthana from the Goodrick Group. So, over to you, Mr. Asthana.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and good morning to everybody. I'll skip the points what has been already discussed by the speakers before me, and straight away come to a figure which we have done a sort of research. The Indian tea production, as all of you know, is the second highest tea production in the world. And the good news is the global tea market is growing. The global tea market is expected to grow at a CAGR of 5.8 to 6% in the next 5 years.
and going to hit a figure of 81.6 billion US dollars. So that's the good news, basically, as far as we are concerned. And the second good news is that still in the global market, 85% of the tea consumption is black tea, which we are producing. And as all the speakers before me also said, that we need to diversify apart from the production of black tea into more value addition production like green tea and other specialty teas, and which we are doing. Everybody is doing in their own way. And moving on to the promotion aspect, Ravi and everybody else before me has talked about the penetration of promotion of tea into the young market. Basically, Indian population is comprising of between people now around 35 years and lower. So penetrating into the young market, one point we missed out is the ready-to-drink teas, which is now catching up in a big way, and we need to capitalize on that. Ready-to-drink teas can be marketed in different formats. It can be marketed in a bottle. It can be marketed in an instant format, powder format. You just pour it into a hot cup of water and drink it. There are carbonated ready-to-drink teas, which is almost like a cola, but then with more, we can promote it as a health wellness quotient. Promotion requires more attention. What I feel is we are lagging behind in this major issue of promotion of tea. And with Indian tea industry, where we have a vast variety, where we are producing teas which are ₹5 a cup tea, to a masala cup chai, to a 500 rupee per cup tea, which is a single estate tea. So we have got a wide range of variation of teas which we can promote in different segments, basically, which are identify the segments, economic viability of segments, and promote these teas into different segments at different selling prices. And to add to the quality aspect, what people have talked about me, Azam also talked about the quality aspect, which is one of the most important things which we have to now look into is, out of the total production of 1400 million kilos, apart from the 250 or 240 million what we export, the majority of the 1160 million kilos is consumed in the country. And out of that, we have identified that around 200 million kilos comprise of good teas, which are selling at above 180 to 200 rupee levels. So as producers, we should try to produce more of these good teas. The demand for good teas is there, which we are seeing at this point of time, that people are ready to buy good teas at high price levels. So concentrate on producing good quality, and then in the total production in the Indian domestic market, we have got only 10% production of orthodox teas. We need to scale up production of orthodox tea. This will serve two purposes. One, it will improve our exports. Number two, will reduce the production of CTC teas, thereby creating more demand for CTC teas in the market. And also, government of Assam has now given us a good proposition of, I think, ₹7 kg on production of orthodox tea. Maybe we can get some more from the government of India if we talk to them about increasing the subsidy, this to encourage the production of orthodox tea. And what else? I think most of the things has been covered in my previous speakers, and this is basically what I wanted to talk about. And of course, the branded tea market. The branded tea market is going to increase. It's a 15,000 crore market at this point of time and expanding. So maybe we need to concentrate more on the branded tea market and increase good quality, put good quality of branded tea on the shelves rather than cheaper variety, which is now mostly available on the shelves in the supermarkets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Atul. Can Hello. Yeah. Hello. Mr. Mukherjee,
Yeah,
can you hear me? I think
yeah.
my
Chandan, we are losing you too often.
sorry.
Said we are losing you too often, Chandan.
Acha, can you all hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Acha, okay, thanks. Sorry, I think there was a little bit of connectivity issue. So I think we have heard already Mr. Ajam Moni, Ravi Susanti, Atul Astana. Now, future scenario of tea, consumer behavior and consumer connect. I think on this, Mr. Sanjay Bansal will be speaking. So over to Mr. Sanjay Bansal. Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bora, and hello, everybody. The format of this discussion or webinar was that each of the speakers will be giving their comments on the four items of key point. And the left and right side, I think, is not actually connected. This we discussed yesterday also in our mock call at 4 o'clock. So I will give my comments briefly on all 5 points. So
Yeah.
promotion of Indian tea post-lockdown in COVID situation. Here there is a clear direction that we must be able to tabulate scientifically and establish the health claims of tea, including its property of being antivirus. So tea is antiviral, and there has been a lot of activity in TRA over the last 3 months, which several of us are familiar with, and Mr. Prabhat Bezwara, the chairman, is also here. So there has to be a new strategy on the table of TRA to facilitate a very transparent and structured research linking human health and tea. And for this, there are various government bodies in the center, in the government of India, who can facilitate funding. And there's also the NTRF fund. So there's no paucity of funds for this. Governments of India, successive governments have always put a lot of funds which are underutilized in each year for the purpose of research and development. So here there's a clear roadmap. Second is that the crisis management, quality tea production and boosting demand. It's very well known, and it has been said over the centuries that high quality tea is always more stable and brings the tea industry and tea estates in particular to stability. So we have to focus on tea quality all the time. Then number 3, my comments are in emergence of new business models in tea industry. The last disruptions that happened in tea industry on some scale was basically the organic agriculture that came in the late 80s and early 90s. So it's already 30 years old or more. Then was the small growers model, which was very vibrant in south of India and has come to the northeast and has certain advantages over the classic tea estate model. What I propose going forward, and it looks like that the tea industry will not be able to sustain itself in its classic model, and over 170 years of its viability, which is a very strong, strong point towards its unique modeling of agriculture in an industrial mode created by the British. So the way forward, there has to be a major disruption, because the tea industry is a socio-political industry. It involves a lot of human beings, so politicians will always be involved. It's very social oriented, because if we don't have the workers, we can't operate. It is in remote and often in backward areas. So there are certain realities which we have to come to terms with. I will just mention on the socio-political part on my last point. I now move on to point number 4, which is the future scenario of tea consumers' behavior and consumer connect. We have to understand the classical mode of drinking tea is not what the next generation is going to do. They want variation, they want options, they want various new experiences. So tea has to become experiential. And the classic tea drinker population is reducing in India, which is the largest in terms of black tea consumption in quantitative terms, not per capita. And we need to increase the per capita because our best bet is the domestic market, which we are experiencing right now. There's a shortage of tea, prices have gone up by 30, 40, 50%. There's no problem for Indian consumers to pay that additional, whereas if you try to sell it at that much of a high to European or Japanese or American, they will say our inflation rate is less than 1, we can't afford to give you any price increase. So whatever as exporters we gain is the depreciation of the rupee, which is not a very good model in the long term. So our own below the nose market is what we have to cherish and we have to build, and we must address this issue as an industry and not keep asking government help to do it for us. We are in business and that is our business requirement. The last point about the socio-political nature of the industry, we should understand that the age of subsidies from the central government is over. If at all the tea industry will receive the attention of the politicians, is only because of the enormous vote bank that we have. And they will want to, and the government has created mechanisms over the last 20 years to be able to make funds available directly to the vote bank. So that money is not going to go through the industry, so let's forget about that. So what do we have to do in the current scenario to secure our future? And the points I have mentioned are from that perspective. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. I think you have I think call for the collaborative action teach perspective. Yeah. Hello.
Chandan, we can't hear you, please.
Chandan, you are muting yourself.
No, I have not been ready.
Hello. I think we can go over to our next speaker. I think there's some problem with Mr. Bora's connection and microphone. So can we move on to our next speaker for today's webinar? I think that would be Mr. Tiwari from the Shiliguri Auction Committee. The Shiliguri Tea Auction Committee. Can we hear you, Mr. Tiwari?
Unmute kariye.
Mr. Tiwari, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks to Indian Chamber of Commerce, जिन्होंने हमको यहाँ बोलने का अवसर दिया है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं तो नॉर्थ बंगाल टी इंडस्ट्री और चाय उद्योग से ही बात करूँगा. सिलीगुड़ी टी ऑक्शन में हम लोगों ने लास्ट ईयर लगभग 140 मिलियन चाय बेचा है और इस साल हम लोगों का टारगेट है कि हम लोग ऑक्शन में कम से कम 150 मिलियन चाय बेचूं. ड्यू टू कोविड थोड़ा प्रोडक्शन लॉस हुआ है, फिर भी मैं आशा करता हूं कि हम लोग इस चाय को बेचने 150 मिलियन का टारगेट हम लोग कवर करेंगे. कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, जैसे हमारे यहाँ सेकंड सर्वर होने से क्वांटिटी हम लोग अभी वीकली 1,30,000 पेटी बेच रहे हैं, उसको हम लोग 1,50,000 पेटी वीकली करना चाहते हैं. उसके लिए हम लोगों को एक सर्वर चाहिए. टी बोर्ड से मैंने रिक्वेस्ट भी किया है कि अगर सेकंड सर्वर चालू हो जाएगा तो हम लोग यहाँ पर क्वालिटी ऑप्शन के थ्रू 1,50,000 पैकेज पर वीक बेच सकेंगे, जिससे कि प्रोड्यूसर को भी फायदा होगा और सेंटर भी डेवलपमेंट होगा. दूसरा मेरा क्वेश्चन था यहाँ पर नॉर्थ बंगाल टी पार्क जो डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है उसमें गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से हम लोगों को कोई सपोर्ट ज़्यादा नहीं मिला है. फिर भी वहाँ पर ऑलरेडी 4 वेयर हाउस बन चुके हैं और 3 ब्लेंडिंग पैकेजिंग यूनिट भी आ गई हैं। टी बोर्ड का ऑफिस भी वहाँ शिफ्ट हो गया है। तो मेरा टी बोर्ड से रिक्वेस्ट है कि इसमें अगर टी बोर्ड को सपोर्ट करें और तो ये डेवलप काफ़ी हो जाएगा और टी इंडस्ट्री एक जगह ऑर्गेनाइज हो जाएगी। अभी जो इधर उधर वेयर हाउसेज हैं, गोदाम हैं, दूर दूर उनको हम लोग लाइसेंस देते हैं, एक जगह आ जाने से सारे काम पैकेजिंग यूनिट सब एक ही जगह आ जाएंगी। टी बोर्ड का ऑफिस भी वही है, ब्रोकर्स का भी ऑफिस वहाँ पे जगह सबने दे रखी है, वहाँ आ सकते हैं। इससे एक जगह संगठित हो जाएंगे हम लोग और लोगों को काम मिलेगा। वहाँ पर हम लोग का एक्सपोर्ट फैसिलिटी भी है, वहाँ ऑलरेडी वहाँ पर आईसीटी बन गया है। कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, उसकी वजह से अभी काम चालू नहीं हुआ। इससे क्या, वहाँ से पैकिंग वगैरह हो जाने से एक्सपोर्ट का काम नॉर्थ बंगाल से यहाँ से डायरेक्ट हो जाएगा, जो कि कलकत्ते के ऊपर में काफ़ी बर्डन नहीं रहेगा। ऑक्सीजन सेंटर में अभी कुछ प्रॉब्लम और भी आ रही है, जैसे अभी नया क्लाउड सिस्टम लाया है, सर्वर डाउन हो जाता है और ऑक्सीजन होता नहीं है। उसके लिए मैं टी बोर्ड से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा इसमें थोड़ा सुधार करें। नहीं तो क्या होता है, कुछ चाय बिक जाती है, कुछ चाय फिर डिफर होता है, ऑक्सीजन 1 हफ्ता बाद होता है, उसमें प्रोड्यूसर को पेमेंट नहीं मिलता, टाइम से मिलता नहीं। तो ये सारी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है। और टी बोर्ड से मेरा ये भी रिक्वेस्ट है कि नॉर्थ बंगाल से या कोई भी हर ऑक्सीजन सेंटर से एक आदमी अपना बोर्ड में मेंबर जरूर लेवे, जो कि उनके लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स हैं वो सॉल्व कर सकती हैं। और रह गया बाकी टी बोर्ड को डे टू डे वर्क करने में ज़्यादा इंटरफियर न करके हम लोगों से सलाह करके ही कोई काम टी बोर्ड करे। ज़्यादा इंटरफियर करने से प्रॉब्लम आती रहती है। और बाकी हमको और कुछ नहीं बोलना है। हमारा सेंटर अच्छा चले, चाय अच्छी बन रही, इस साल मौसम बहुत अच्छा है, चाय अच्छी बिक रही है, प्राइसेस भी बहुत अच्छे आ रहे हैं। हमारे ख्याल से हमारे प्रोड्यूसर्स भाई सब खुश होंगे और ऑक्शन में ज़्यादा चाय आएगी, अच्छा रहेगा इसके लिए। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद।
Lost your voice. Lost your voice.
Hello?
We can't hear you actually.
Yes, it's over.
Okay. Mr. Bora, over to you. I think you have to call in the next speaker,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Rajiv Lo.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good noon. I'm very honored to be here today. And I heard very good analysis of all of the system and everything, and the problems and the perspectives and the prospects and everything. We have from Siliguri much to offer, like to do all the work which are so far being done from Calcutta. That saves time, that saves a lot of other cost. But somehow or other, because of the infrastructure lacking, we have so much of problem going on still here. As Mr. Tiwari said, we have the dry port, but nothing has started. 10 years we have been lingering here. The tea park. Tea park was given to us about 10 years ago, and because just one thing, that's the bankability issue, it has not been really started. So these two things, if it can be done, it will be very good that we can streamline our efforts. We are very lucky because of the locational advantage that Siliguri is at the point where all the team from the Northeast and from even Bihar, Nepal, and if possible from Bangladesh also, because Upper Bangladesh is not having much facility. If it comes to India, if it comes to the Siliguri auction system, it will be more advantageous. So, such a huge bulk of teas passing through Siliguri, and then we have not been able to make use because of the infrastructure difficulties. These we have to streamline, and we have been having meetings after meeting with the ministries and the CIA level, at the ICIC level, and at the keyboard level, and everywhere. So we once again, would like to reach our voice to the authorities that much more attention is given to our this particular thing called e-park come driver. It's very important. Out of all these 1400 million kilos what we produce in India, we are consuming about 1200. This balance of 200 has to be done from Siliguri with a much more than anywhere else. Yesterday, when we were preparing, I was saying that this is a war between Calcutta and Siliguri. Maybe about 100 years back, when the London auction was shifted to Calcutta, we had this locational advantage at Calcutta. Today, after another 100 years, when it has come to Siliguri, we would certainly like to have this infrastructure in here and then have a very big boost to the tea industry. This is exactly what I wanted to say. I hope I have made a point to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lochan. It was a very well covered this thing, your presentation. Hello. I think my sister. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, can you hear me, please, Mr. Lochan?
Yeah, I can.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I think we have already covered with the panelists all the keynotes. So we'll have question and answer, my dear viewers, those who have already participated in this webinar. So would request if the questions are there, but we'll keep it for about 15 to 30 minutes. So starting with, if there are any questions from the viewers,
No.
Gentlemen.
I think, Mr. Bora, if we can just have a 1 minute summing up by each of the panelists, because we started with Mr. Monem, and then we had all the panelists give out their views on the key points. So can we have one minute of summing up by each of the panelists?
Yeah, let's start from Ajam Monim, please. Yeah, starting with promotion of Indian tea post lockdown. What he said on yeah, overall all the points, covering all the points.
No, summing up has to be done, I think, Bodhi.
Moderator.
Yeah.
No, I think if you want to
moderator.
No, I understand, but I was wondering if you have any more points to make, maybe 1 minute of any comments, anything, and then we can sum up after the question answers.
Is that addressed to me?
Yeah,
sure. So, I generally highlighted the industry structure and the malaise that it brings to us, because it is a cyclical business and it is labor intensive. So we have our challenges there. That structure in the future will need something for making the industry sustainable. I gave you the present scenario also, where the loss of crop has given some sort of a reprieve in terms of prices, but perhaps not enough to mitigate the high cost that we are going to face as a loss of crop. I also touched upon the consumer reaction, which is very encouraging and gives a huge opportunity to the tea market and the tea packers and marketeers to capture on the health aspects of tea, bring in more innovations into their branding, include fortified minerals, include vitamins, fortified vitamins, and do more. So we have a market which has changed. I mentioned about the earlier headwinds that we used to hit upon, and now clearly there are tailwinds for us to look at opportunities that are prevailing. I also, touched upon consumer behavior and how that's panning out, where, discretionary spending and staple spending is related to tea. And we believe that tea is very much considered as a staple diet. So people are staying at home, drinking more tea. So that we touched upon. And then I offered some advice to our producer friends on how, with our limited ability on marketing, how we can tackle at the production end. And from that point of view, I think if we believe in good quality, plucking well, integrated pest management, reducing the load of chemicals, and also making sure that we are our carbon footprint is well sequestered, our carbon is well protected, and then I also had some advice for T-Board. I believe that if they are to be relevant in today's scenario, then of course they can contribute in terms of getting the stakeholders, government, everybody to build a corpus for above the line marketing and on a generic basis completely. So these are some of the points which I touched upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monin. I think we'll move on to Mr. Suchanti if he has any last remarks to make.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, I think as you rightly mentioned, a sum up. I liked the point that Sanjay made. I had touched upon it by way of the research chair and propagating tea as a health drink. I think we need to do a little more work on that particular aspect, and possibly the TRA is well positioned to factor in that. Is basically give credibility to the fact that tea is actually truly a health drink. So that's something that we should be working on very, very closely. Please remember that in the new normal, consumer trends, consumer perception is going to change enormously. If you think you've seen it all, this is just the start. It's going to change even more. So we need to be, as an industry, well positioned to take advantage of the emerging trends that will happen over the next few months. I definitely feel that supply chain management is going to be an enormous challenge. And that is something that we need to be delving on at length. It's actually more a subject to do with the FMCG companies, but we have people like Atul who also dabble in the packet tea market. He's made some suggestions on RTD, but basically supply chain management is what's going to be of critical importance. What we do notice with consumers is that in the earlier format, if you didn't get your product, you tended to go back and back to the same store or maybe other stores to find that. What has happened is patience is not a virtue at this point of time. The consumer picks up what is available on the shelf. So if brand one is not available, the loyalty switch very, very quickly to brand two. Okay. The other thing that's happening is the elder generation is a little reticent about moving out of the home. So what happens is it's a younger generation which is actually making the moves by way of grocery shopping, by way of online shopping. They are the target now that we should be looking at, because they are the ones who are going to be doing the spending. So let's target that particular demography in terms of population, because they are the ones who are going to be making the decisions on behalf of household. And last but not the least is, I think the T-Board, and that is where T-Board needs to step in, is look at a greater media hype for tea, not just as a product, but in terms of sustainability, health, welfare, environment, carbon footprint, and the rest of it. This is pretty much is how I would sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suchanti. I think we will move on to Mr. Atul Asthana for his closing remarks.
Thank you. In my 5 minutes allocation, I touched upon the global markets and how the industry pans out in the next 5 years, basically the growth of the industry. And I forgot to mention in that in my initial address that the Asia Pacific region is the largest growing tea market at this point of time. So maybe when we are talking about promotion by the Tea Board, we need to look into this market also, instead of going all the way to the US and the European market. Asia Pacific is consuming a lot of tea, which we are seeing as a producer also. And also I talked about the penetration of marketing tea of different varieties and value addition in the younger generation, in the colleges and maybe the IT sector, where the age is less. Instead of promoting only the black tea, these people will like to go in for more different varieties of tea. And also I talked about the quality parameter. Increase. There's always a 200 million kilo quality tea market. Let's try to target that, and increase production of orthodox. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asthana. I would now move on to Mr. Sanjay Bansal for a quick 1 minute after he has heard the other panelists.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. Mr. Mukherjee, I think in this case.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, all the distinguished panelists basically have come into convergence on similar issues. And I think the takeaway is very simple. If you just collate each panelist's views, you will have a clear roadmap of which way the tea industry should be going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. Mr. Tiwari, any last words from you?
हेलो
हेलो बताइए।
मिस्टर सुचंती ने चाय को संजीवनी कहा है, तो ये चाय सच में कलयुग की संजीवनी है। इसका जिक्र रामायण में भी हुआ है। जब लक्ष्मण जी के शक्ति लगती है तो हनुमान जी जो वहां से लेके आते हैं संजीवनी हिमालय के पर्वत से, और लंका में जाकर के वही चाय वहां हो गई है। तो ये कलयुग की संजीवनी है। अच्छी चाय बनाएंगे, अच्छा दाम आएगा, और क्वालिटी के साथ खिलवाड़ मत करे कोई, यही मेरा कहना है। अच्छी चाय बनाइए, हम लोग अच्छा दाम देंगे। सिलीगुड़ी पैकेटियर बहुत एक्टिव है, अच्छे दाम आ रहे हैं, एवरीवन इज हैप्पी। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Right. Oh, thank you, Mr. Tiwari. Over to Mr. Lochan for your last words.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after seeing the best possibilities in the world in India, in Assam, whenever you say this, anywhere in the world, people have this twinkle in the eyes, Darjeeling and Assam. But somehow or other, because of our, whatever, the total call,
You have got muted. Yeah. You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Lochan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, now clear.
Okay. We have got the best possibilities in the world, that's Darjeeling and Assam. Any person who hears us in the international scenario just have the twinkle in the eyes that this man is bringing Darjeeling and Assam. So good teas, but somehow that we have not been able to reach them in time in the right way has really disturbed at least, and the whole Indian tea industry. It was such a profitable tea industry for about 150 years, and all of a sudden, since last 20, 30 years, we are in a mess. So we have to get out of it by simply improving our infrastructure and the speed of reaching our product. I remember 3 years back, that's in 2016 or something, in World Tea Expo in Las Vegas, when Nigel said that tea industry is going to die. And in just 5 years alone, I am seeing that we are more than dead. It's very, very sad, and it's very, very dangerous. We have to act very fast, improve our infrastructure, and speed up our things before we do well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lochan. I think with this, we come to the end of our panel discussion.
Yeah.
And I really don't see in the chat box any questions as of now from the participants. I think they were enamored by hearing the doings of the tea industry, and very few questions that they had for these experts. And we are also running a little behind schedule in the sense that we have another 2 sessions with the tea board, which we also need to do. So in the meantime, since we don't have questions, but I would request participants to put up questions in case they want, and also if they could address it to the person or the panelists they want the question directed. In the meantime, may I move on to the special guest, without whose support this particular webinar would not have been possible. it is the Deputy Chairman of the Tea Board. We are all very, very eager to hear from you, Mr. Ray, as to the active role that the Tea Board would be taking up along with the private players for the revival of the tea industry, the roadmap of revival of the tea industry post-COVID. So over to you, Mr. Ray.
Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, well, as Mr. Suchanti is saying, there are only two things to the whole game. One is technology, and the second is the taste point. If you have the taste point, you have the consumer by his throat, and he has to drink your tea. And your technological initiative should ensure that if he wants Gida Pahar second flush, that Gida Pahar second flush has to be delivered to him. Now, from the tea board side, we have an acute problem of funding. In the last 5 years, our funding has been static at about 100 crores. This year, we had got an additional funding of 50 crores, but because of the financial issues that you are well aware of, that funding may take some more time to come. Towards the end of the year, we are hopeful it may come, but we are getting only 15% of our allotment, normal allotment that we should be getting. So we really are not having any funds. So most of our funds only go on two schemes, orthodox subsidy and replantation subsidy. That is about 90% of the tea board's budget. The plantation subsidy, we have a huge backlog that is already pending before the ministry. We hope to get it sanctioned, then you would get your money. For the orthodox subsidy at 3 rupees, we run up with 150 crores, 45 crores, and 45, 50 crores of plantation every year. So this is not sustainable if the government does not increase the fund flow into the industry or the tea board. So we have taken a decision after informing the board that the replantation subsidy has been kept in abeyance till the next plan is going to be decided. The orthodox subsidy at 3 rupees comes to 45, we can manage. But if the orthodox production goes up to say 200 million kgs, at 3 rupees it is 60 crores, and in the proposed 9 rupees it becomes an astronomical amount, which is not payable. But you must also understand that the funding that we give, if the tea is 60 rupees a kg, we are giving him 3 rupees. If it is 200 rupees a kg, it is 3 rupees across the board. So some modality has to be ensured by which we subsidize or we pay good teas which are exportable. Because in the orthodox, we are looking by and large at an export market, but India's name has to be on the forefront. When we are exporting tea, we find that 80% of our teas are going out in raw form, basically in sacks to overseas buyers. And who can manage to dictate a price to even big companies like MacLeod? Anybody. They dictate $2. If you don't give me $2, I pick it up from Nigeria or Sri Lankan. As far as our product range is concerned, with about 160, 70 million kgs of orthodox, our prices this year will be higher than Sri Lanka. Our prices of the CTC, again this year, is higher than that of the Kenyan. So when you're looking at a cutthroat businessman across the globe, it is going to be cost. So our exports this year, I presume, would be lower by 20, 30 million kgs. We cannot make an educated guess at this point of time, but our export shipments have dropped as per our figures that we have collected. So what do we do here? How do we get this money within the financial condition that you all know across the country? What we have done today is the other 50% of the producers, how to upgrade their quality. That is the small tea growers, the cooperatives, and then 200 crore package for the next 3 years from private funding. This is from the National Climate Change Adaptation Fund, sourced through NABARD, and the Global Green Initiative, which is headed by Mr. Ban Ki-moon, ex-UN chief. Now this money which comes in goes in to upgrade the quality of the small growers. Here is where the Chai Sehog comes in. Chai Sehog is nothing but a traceability app. It allows you to identify the garden from where the tea is plucked, the quality of fine leaf, at what price it is paid to the factory, bottling or otherwise, and what is the price of the made tea which is sold by the factory. All this data gets known to the auction platform. The auctioneers, they come to know about the quality of the tea as and when it is being made. So the whole process of the tea moving in, the tasting and other things can come onto a new technological age. For this, we have come out of our old server system and shifted over to the cloud platform. Yes, I understand there are some hitches in that. There has been disruption in Siliguri, Guwahati, South India. But the way forward is the cloud, because once all your data is in the cloud, you get what is called a metadata. You use your AI to fine tune how to produce the tea, what quality to produce the tea, and how to sell it forward. As I think our friend from Siliguri said that there's a war. It is not a war between two cities. It is a world war that is going to happen now. You see, Indian tea, like any other Indian product, will be loved by a certain category of people, will be tried to be pulled down by another category of people who owe allegiance to a different world order. So our tea, the traceability norm, the FSSI norms, without the FSSI norms and you're marketing and exporting a product which is within the parameters of the MRLs, which are the necessity of export, will be having a very difficult time. For the orthodox market, our biggest strength today is Iran, one country. They have a lot of rupee balance, but that rupee balance will exhaust in a year. Thereafter, you have to examine how this would go ahead. For the branding part of the tea and for promotion, we have a very small amount of money available with the tea board. We hardly spend 4 to 5 crores on the promotion part of it. In case the plantation is stopped for the next 2 years, we can find an internal amount of about 15 to 20 crores, maximum 15 crores for promotion purposes. And as the industry in Sri Lanka does, the exporters have to contribute. The auction platform, instead of collecting 6 paisa, we can go for 40 paisa. This all the industry has to decide, the associations has to decide. Once the money is there, the tea board or in the tea board, we would not have the capability. Frankly speaking, we do not have a marketing capability. We do not have an officer staff, available officer staff in the promotion directorate who can push it through. It has to be industry appointed group who will push forward this marketing branding exercise across the country by identifying specific countries and which brands are going to go into this. We cannot continue to get value for our big estates and our big companies if we think that we can export tea in sacks to a third party packer. Somebody appointed the Asian countries. If you look at the duty tariff structure in the Asian countries, it is now between 15 to 80%. I presume Indian tea, well branded, well packaged, can be launched to many Asian countries like Malaysia, which has 20%, Thailand, which has 15%, and slowly over a period of time, you can find a niche product for yourself. We have a very small scheme called this tea boutique scheme. In the beginning, when I joined the tea board, I was very happy about it. But like you see the cafe coffee day, one man, one idea, one concept. Young people got an idea to mix together and have coffee per charcha. Now your concept it has to be several categories. We're only looking at upmarket ones. That is 50 lakh rupees, something at 20 lakh point, something at 5 lakh point, where people in a hygienic kind of environment can drink their teas at a cheaper price, which the tea board can subsidize through this existing scheme. For which what I've told you is that we need to divert money from production into promotion. And for the loss that we make in promotion, that in the next 3 years, we are going to make up from the funding from the GGI. It is not a small or mean achievement. Our budget is 200 crores. Our extra allotment is 200 crores, which is an extra budgetary allotment. So as we go forward, the traceability norm, the Chai Sahयोग, getting on to new platforms to sell tea, the GEM platform, which is one of the cheapest forms of selling tea. Now it is only open for organizations, but in phase 2, the GEM is going to open out for the citizens of this country. That anybody who is lodged on like Amazon, you can sell your tea, and the cost is 1/10 of Amazon. Amazon takes, I think, 15 to 20% of your product. They'll take about 2 to 5%, something like that. So it is a value add that you will get there. And last, I'll only say one thing. 80% of the tea that we make today is CTC, and maybe out of that 60% is simple chapati. लोग को खाना है खाएंगे, नहीं खाना है तो चावल खा लेंगे. But young people, upcoming people who are coming up in our cities, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, have an aspiration that the drink that they hold in their hand should be one which they can be seen with. In our small way in the Facebook and website, we have tried to put through programs during this COVID, and I'm happy to say that we are touching 500,000 subscribers on Facebook. In the last 3 months, we've increased. And in the Commerce Ministry, we have got 32 such departments and organizations who run Facebook. We are number one as far as likes are concerned today. That means, yes, tea, the people of India, it is their national tea. It is the national drink of India. It is a national drink which is there without being propagated. Coffee cannot touch that. Some people tell me that we should file a suit against the coffee board. Pepsi, Coke, they fight it out amongst themselves. Gentlemen, you are far ahead. Tea is the drink you hold first thing in the morning. If in the evening somebody drinks tea or whiskey, that is their game, their problem, not ours. We should try to emphasize on that tea in our own area of competence with the addition of 2-3 important points, as you have already said: organic, chemical-free, wellness drink, and immunity booster. As much as we can push the market to accept this idea, we should push it. But we cannot force a view on people that this will make you COVID resistant, because even with HCN and other drugs, you understood how the world would react. It would give a very short-term advantage to propagate something which is not correct. But yes, tea definitely is a wellness drink. It definitely is the immunity booster, and we shall go forward for marketing tea in that matter. In the finances of the tea board will be at a much lower key, but I expect in the next year there will be an improvement, and we shall come back to our original funding. But I would rather agree with Mr. Bansal that increase of subsidy from 100 crores to 500 crores is something we should not dream about. We should try to become cost effective by cost cutting, taking on technological initiatives, innovations, and make our way forward on our own strength. And the tea board has been there with you for 70 years. I presume it shall continue to be there. Funding part is difficult, but other assistance, the tea board has to be by your side if it wants to remain a meaningful entity, or it will also lose out, because the government of India is now very clear that if you cannot stand on your feet, whether you are a company or a board, you shall wither away. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh God.
Mr. Mukherjee, we can't hear you, please. We can't hear you, please, Mr. Mukherjee.
You're on mute, Mukherjee.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Now we can. Now we can.
I have unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think what I mentioned was, thank you, Mr. Roy, for your words of encouragement for the entire tea fraternity. And I think you have very clearly mentioned the position of tea board moving forward. I think all the people in the tea fraternity has taken a note of that. And with this, may I move on to our guest of honor for this webinar, the chairman of the tea board, Mr. Prabhat Besbarua, for his remarks, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
It was quite an interesting webinar. I'd like to make a few points. First, that basically now we have proved to ourselves that tea is a commodity. Your production dropped in the beginning of the year, in the first quarter of the year. Prices shot up. May not be to our satisfaction. Our production was down by 50% at the end of May. And our prices were up only by around 25%, 20%. There's a lady online. Does any one of you have a lady in the near vicinity?
People who are not speaking should mute themselves, actually. Then it will be easier.
No, we can hear a lady's voice. So you know. Anyway, tea is a commodity. We should realize that the root cause of our woes was oversupply. The oversupply has basically come due to the unbridled expansion of small tea growers, but this is something we don't really have a control over. So we had given an idea of having a floor price for green leaf, below which no transaction can take place. Some people will find a way around this by underweighing the tea, by underweighing the tea. If the floor price is 25 rupees, they'll pay 15 rupees for the tea, but actually overweighing the tea. Whatever leaf they get, there are ways in which one or two unscrupulous factories might be able to get around this. But if you have a floor price for green leaf, you cannot buy bad green leaf. You have to buy good quality, otherwise you'll make a loss. The argument is that bought leaf factories will have a tough time. Composite factories which buy leaf will have a tough time. How many people do they employ? There are about 300 or 400 bought leaf factories in Duas and Assam put together. Average employment in these factories is around 100. So you're talking about employment of 40,000. Estates employ 1 million people. Small tea growers and estates employ 1.2 million people. So when you're looking at the interest of 1.2 million people versus 40,000 people, I think the tea board should have taken a call on this long back. Similarly, there are urgent points of auction reform which don't take any money, which the tea board can actually take a call on without necessarily getting the concurrence of all the stakeholders. But for some reason, in some aspects, the tea board behaves like Mohammed bin Tughlaq. In other aspects, they behave like Manmohan Singh. I feel that Mr. K.K. Tiwari talked about T-board support. T-board has to put in a different server. T-board has to do this. T-board has to do that. At the end, he said, but T-board should not interfere. I'd like to tell Mr. Tiwari that he who pays the piper calls the tune. If you want T-board to do all these things for you, you better get used to T-board having a big say in your operations and in the whole setup. I mean, you can't eat your cake and have it. Orthodox exports are buoyant this year. There's no problem about exporting whatever we produce. Unfortunately, the producing fraternity has cut back on orthodox production. Many people are actually diverting part of their orthodox production to CTC because CTC prices are very high at the moment. Now, I want to sort of caution my producer friends that these prices that you are having now will not last for the whole year. There's no doubt that out-of-home consumption of tea has dropped to a huge extent. Part of it has been made up by higher in-home consumption, but not all. Number two, CTC exports are going to be much lower than last year. The deputy chairman talked about a figure of 20 to 30 million less than last year. I spoke to Anup Kumar, who's the largest or the second largest exporter of tea out of India last year. He told me
I think there is some connectivity issue at Mr. Bezbarua's side.
Yeah, there's a connectivity issue. Can't hear. Prabhat, we lost you after Anup Kumar.
I think he has lost connection.
Would you like
I
to
think
give him a call?
I can just try him once. Just give me a moment. I'll try.
For more than 1 hour, the connectivity also.
I think his line is busy. He's also maybe trying to do something, call up or whatever. Can we just give 2 minutes for us to find out what exactly is the status? I think he's just trying to connect. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, Prabhat, we can hear you.
I think he's just trying to connect. In the meantime, I just like to mention a few things that today, along with the Tea Board of India and ICC, we are organizing three sessions, 3 consecutive sessions, one after the other. So once we finish this particular session, there will be a session on Tripura tea, which will start at 2 o'clock. And then there will be a session which would talk about the labor and the legal issues, which will start at 3:30 p.m. So I think all the participants who have logged in, this is for your benefit, that please stay logged in and please be a part of the next 2 sessions as well. And also to my panelists, whoever would want to be there, it would be our pleasure to have you for the other 2 sessions also, in case you want to hear about the growth and the opportunity for the Tripura tea, which is going to come up right after this session. So that's one. And in the meantime, I would also like to convey our heartfelt thanks to the Tea Board India for their kind support, and also the support of the PCM group, the PC Mittal group. Mr. Nishant Mittal is also our chairman for the North Bengal chapter, who would propose the formal vote of thanks. And we also are thankful to Bareilly Tea, who have supported this particular initiative, and also to Mishti FM, which has Radio Mishti, which has promoted this particular webinar among the sectoral people in the North Bengal area where they operate. So my heartfelt thanks to all our sponsors, and also to the roughly about 150 participants which I could see some time back who had logged in. Thank you very much for taking out your precious time to be with us, and of course to hear the experts of the tea industry in this country discuss about the way forward for the entire industry post-lockdown, post-COVID. So, and of course, the directions that the Tea Board Deputy Chairman has also given us, making his encouraging remarks, and also stating the stance of Tea Board in the days to come. I think that was really, really appreciated. So, we just have to wait for a few minutes before Mr. Baisbarua could again log in.
I'm back.
Okay. So over to you, Mr. Baisbarua.
Till when did you hear me?
Till Anup Kumar.
Till Anup Kumar. Then there's not much else to say. Anup Kumar feels that exports are going to be down by 50 million kilos. Now, that could be a little self-serving on his part, because, then, the higher price he buys at, the worse it is for him. But exports are going to be severely impacted. There's no doubt about it. So I would caution my producer friends from being too optimistic on the price front. As far as TRA is concerned and research is concerned, I agree that it's a very important aspect of the whole industry, and TRA probably delivers a lower bang for the buck than it should. It spends about 28 crores, and I think it should be able to run at about 22 crores to deliver the kind of support it is doing at present to the industry. But we are trying, and over this period, we hope that the Tea Board will continue to hold our hands and not treat us like a stepchild or whatever. Nowadays, stepchildren are treated quite well, though. Tea Board is, I can't complain too much about Tea Board, but like Oliver Twist, I want more.
That's true.
So as far as these tea bars and all these specialty formats are concerned, all I can say is that the founder of CCD committed suicide. For whatever reason, I'm not going to say that CCDs didn't do well. But we've got to look at the possibility that this kind of format might actually be stillborn now with this COVID and all this. Maybe we need to focus more on online sales and maybe we invest in 50 lakh rupees in each store by way of subsidy, or 25 lakhs by way of subsidy may not be an efficient way of expanding our market.
Right.
So basically, I think to sum up, what I want to say is, number one, tea is a commodity. When you look at things to help the industry, you must look at measures that will help the bulk tea producers, the majority of the producers. You should not focus yourself on certain initiatives that will help one or two people. Number two, I think that the small tea growers are that's the elephant in the room. Unless we notice it, unless we do something about it, we can't really pull ourselves out of this mess. Number three, orthodox is very, very important, regardless of what happens to Iran in the future. It's very important. The government should continue to ensure that we divert as much production as we can towards orthodox. Number four, although I am supposed to represent the entire industry, I feel that people who employ many fold the number of people and other sectors employ should get more focus. Should be the focus of the government. Not to say neglect anyone, but people who employ a lot of people should get a bigger focus. And number five, if Tea Board is required to invest money in auctions, to invest money in replanting subsidy, to do all kinds of these kind of things, you must be ready to allow tea board to also have a big role in policy making and a big role in deciding what direction the industry needs to move in the future. Thanks. That's about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Besbarua. And may I now request Mr. Nishant Mittal, the chairman of ICC North Bengal chapter, to propose a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Mittal.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to be part of today's discussion on the revival of the industry. On behalf of Indian Chamber of Commerce, I would like to extend my thanks to everyone present here for taking a time out from their busy schedule and gracing the occasion. Today's subject matter well highlighted were promotion of Indian tea post lockdown COVID situation, crisis management, quality tea production, and boosting demand, emerging of new business model in the tea industry, future scenario of e-consumer behavior, and consumer connects. Call for collaborative action, tea industry development perspective, from which we can now design a framework for the coming years to revive and re-cherish the charm of tea. COVID had dislocated the tea industry's usual part, which was maneuvering over to several odds, be it low realization of price or rising of production costs, labor issues, etc. It is felt India's per capita tea consumption per year must increase and brand value of Indian tea grow. A multi-collaborative approach with support of government and all stakeholders is a need of the hour. We should now look for ease of doing business and brand building. With this, I end here and once again thank the speaker for their wonderful duration. Let us tap and as the tea board says, chai pio masro. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mittal. With this, we come to the end of this session. I think we will go ahead with our next session, which is on the Tripura tea. Thank you very much, all the esteemed panelists, for making